computer. We are back with Betty. Remember, we spoke about the victim and the creator mindset. We are back to address that. So stay tuned with us till the end because today we are going to discuss how to transform from the victim mindset. By the way, the victim mindset is the mindset of hopelessness, the mindset of negativity, pessimism, to the creator mindset, optimism, creation, creativity. Remember, creator means creativity. Creation comes from creativity. So, how to be more creative, not just remain a victim. This is what we're going to talk about today, and I warmly welcome Hetty
Thank you, Krishiv.
once again, and I'm very excited for today's session. Let us begin with the first question, the elephant in the room. How can someone identify if they're stuck in victim consciousness?
Well, there will be signs, physical signs in many cases. For example, if you're feeling like a victim, it's common that things seem sort of flat and colors don't really have the radiance that you would think that they could have. And there's a sense that life is somehow happening to you. And events that happen in your life all seem to be slanted toward a negative connotation. Someone could say something that's completely harmless and has nothing to do with you, and yet, because you're in a victim orientation, you will interpret it as being somehow about you or directed toward you in a hostile fashion. That's one area of the victim mentality is a limiting set of beliefs that keeps you from seeing the upside of a situation. So if you find that you're continually focusing on disappointment, things that didn't happen the way that you thought that they quote should happen, and so on, that's a sign of limiting beliefs and of identifying in a victim level. The good news is it doesn't have to be that way. Even the same situation when you open up to interpreting things in a different way, you begin to tap into the possibility of creativity, and this involves to a certain extent letting go of your interpretation and being willing to accept that you may have been wrong about what was going on and being willing to make the steps toward growth that will allow you to see things in a different way and take that same situation that did not feel good and use it to create what would be more enjoyable for you and more beneficial for the world.
Right. So basically, would you say that meditation and journaling are good points
Yes,
to identify?
yes,
Because I've
yes.
met many people who sound like a victim, but when I tell them that this is how you sound, they're like, "Oh no, 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 no," you know, not ready to accept. So even though the language is that of a victim, they will not. They will portray themselves as a creator, and I think it's everything is within. So this victim consciousness will only come to the surface while meditation and journaling. What is your experience with yourself and with the people you have worked with?
Yeah, I feel that that's true. And a lot of it also comes to taking responsibility. Like I mentioned a moment ago, of taking a decision about this. This means accepting that it is you who are responsible for your own inner condition. Someone else is not responsible for your feelings. You are. And that the other side of that is true, which is a very liberating insight, that you are not responsible for other people's feelings. They're allowed to interpret the universe in their own way. And so you did not, quote, do this to them. You may have behaved in a way that you don't really like, or that they don't really like in some fashion or other. But in the ultimate sense, you did not put them where they are. You put yourself in a situation when you make this decision, that you have to look at, how did I, or how am I um, able to change this? Instead of trying, I almost shifted into something that would allow a person to blame themselves, but you don't have to blame yourself either. It's just simply saying, okay, I see this for what it is. And I feel like we have little magnets all over us. And when you switch the magnets, which is meditation is the best tool for that, then you become free of magnetizing things to you that are not beneficial to you.
Right. So what this is a random thought that is coming to my mind, especially because I joined the fitness. I went to the gym after a long time. But I feel like the most joy comes from doing all the boring stuff, meditating, journaling, going to the gym, going to work. Those are all in in a way they can be seen as boring things. But when you go through that, you get the reward.
Right,
Like if you do meditation, the reward is mindfulness in every situation. If you do
right,
journaling, the reward is you get to know yourself and work on your emotional health. Similarly, showing up to work on time in the long run can reward you with promotions or perhaps even starting up your own business. Going to the gym, working on your physical side will, will have the rewards.
right.
The only thing is that a lot of people are interested in the rewards, which is the tip of the iceberg. I think rewards are the 1 to 5%, but the process is consisting of 95%, 99, because we live through it. Imagine you're hiking on a mountain. You'll reach the peak. How many selfies are you going to take? For how long are you gonna enjoy the view? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15. But it took you so many hours to go from the bottom to the top. It's important to enjoy the journey,
Mhm. Yes.
which brings me to the next question. But I think we've already answered that because you're such an amazing guest. You have shot two targets with one answer. The next question was, what daily habits or practices help you stay in the creator mindset? Are there any other habits you would like to mention, or perhaps
Yes.
the ones we have already spoken about?
Well, I'll share with you my morning practice. All right. As soon as I become aware that I'm on Earth, I begin to say powerful affirmations that ground me in my consciousness. And then I go into meditation. I do particularly passage meditation as taught by Sri Eswaran, with going over specific prayers that I say every day. And as soon as I get up, I also, unless the weather is very bad, I put my clothes on and go out for a walk with my little dog. And while I'm doing that, I'm bringing oxygen into my body and into my brain so that I can be more effective. And so my personality begins to shape in a way that can be useful, as I'm remembering, okay, at this day I'm going to be doing this or that. But by having a very consistent routine, and then when I come back from the house, I eat my simple breakfast, and then I'm ready to do write down some affirmations and positive statements and the like, right? And that at that point, I'm completely present and ready to do my day's work. So through all of that grounding, I'm able to maintain a consistent pitch in my creative activities. Without that kind of a practice, I don't believe that I would be able to do that.
Basically, the magic is in the morning and the evening routine. That's where
Yeah,
the magic lies. It does not lie in the Friday evening and Saturday nights. Those are very short lived.
right.
And I think when you talk about these positive affirmations and and positive state, I personally, this is what I do. I merge them with gratitude and emotion journaling so that
Yes.
I get a complete package. There's something I'm going to do now shortly after we finish recording.
Hmm.
This brings me to how do you deal with setbacks without falling back into the victim thinking again? Because it's a trap, it's a snakes and ladders, isn't it?
Right. Yes. And inevitably,
How
there
do
are
you take
times.
care of the snakes? That's the
Right.
question.
They're waiting for you to say, okay, you thought you had this figured out. Not so fast, right? Yeah, because inevitably there will be things that don't come through as planned, disappointments, and places where you realize that you've made a mistake of some kind, or you may believe that you've made a mistake. I could talk about that another time, but um, yeah, how do you deal with that? Well, I can tell you how I deal with it. I step back and say, okay, what do we have here? What is exactly going on? And how is it that the way that I thought things were going to go is not congruent with the way that they actually are? Because I feel the way I approach this is that's usually called failure. Okay, it's something that you thought, some plan or something has quote failed, right? However, what it really is it's a data point saying, okay, you're on the right track, but you took a wrong turn here somewhere, and you need to do some course correction and look carefully at what does the data tell you about where you're going with this. I can give you a quick example of a business failure that I had where I suddenly realized after I had put a lot, it wasn't so sudden, but the realization itself was quite sudden that a lot of things that I had put a lot of energy into in a specific business that I was doing led to a place where suddenly nothing worked. And it was clearly time to turn around. I mean, I could have said, oh, but it was just this one thing, la la la. But the truth was that what I had been doing was not congruent with my own life energy and with the forces of the marketplace that I was interacting with in various ways. And there's a lot of details to that. But my approach to that moment, which was not a pleasant moment by any means, was to say, okay, what exactly did not work here? And write down every single thing that I found had not worked, and look at how those factors fit into my life, because ultimately, hopefully, your business is there to support your life and not the other way around. So I said, okay, how can I make my life better by learning from this experience, and what would it be best to do the opposite of? And by doing that, I was able to recover from that failure and say, okay, now I'm going to do something that succeeds and brings me what I really want. And that I was able to do that. It was because I just said, okay, well, here it is. You better like look at this and take your medicine and stop pushing harder is not the answer here. That was what the message I got. Pushing harder is not going to cut it. So, sometimes there's a teacher who says that sometimes you have to go all the way to the very end before you realize the message. And then you can see it.
You mean rock bottom
Right, rock
sometimes?
bottom
Okay,
or the end of the road or whatever that is. Yeah. And then you can say, okay, well, that clearly didn't work. What am I going to do instead?
I
Um,
get it. Get it.
yeah, yeah.
So all
And this
this
does
is
not mean
meant.
giving up. It's not a matter of giving up. It's a matter of saying change course.
So you see growth and then decline or maybe plateau, but at
Mhm.
that point also accept it, and then
Right,
again get up and start
right.
practicing the good habits,
Yeah,
which are, you know, boring, but they're not really boring. They're the most reward.
right. They're the things that make things work. It's all those little
Yes,
details.
it's the daily habits. It's the
Hmm.
daily routine. It's the daily
Right.
mindset,
Hmm.
because the major events are very short-lived.
Yeah, that's
Thank you
right.
so much. This was a very insightful and very realistic conversation. We covered about how to become a creator, but we also acknowledge that sometimes you have some earthquakes and then again you rebuild yourself.
Mhm.
But thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity and the insight that we've gained through this conversation.